Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the school days book tag, which, is that what I called it? Yeah, school days book tag. Okay, let's try that again. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing the school days book tag, which is an original tag that I created last year. I will link the original video in the description. It's that time of day, it's that time of year again, going back to school. I'm now going back to school as an actual teacher, and I just thought it'd be fun to do these prompts again. So the idea with the tag is you've got times of day questions and then subject questions. And the idea is that you have to do the times of day questions, and then you can pick any of the subjects that you want to do that you think are interesting. I'm going to do all of the prompts because it's my tag, so I think all the prompts are interesting. And I have tried to pick different books from last year, although a couple of the questions I couldn't pick different books for, which you'll understand as we go through. So there's quite a few prompts. All of the information will be in the description of the video. Let's get started. So as usual, when I do tags, I've got my laptop here so I can read the prompts because I will definitely not remember them. So times of day. First bell, tell us about the book that first got you into reading. Now, obviously this is one of the questions where my answer is the same as last year, and that is The Borrowers by Mary Norton. I love this book. This was definitely the book that made me a reader. And it's about tiny people that live under the floor and their adventures, basically. And we follow Ariete, Pod and Homily Clock, who live behind the clock in the kitchen. And yeah, it's just about their adventures. And I adored this book as a kid. It really sparked my imagination. It made me want to write stories. It made me want to read. I'm still on the hunt for the bind-up that I had as a kid, because there's 4 books in the series. And I had a bind-up with the first 3 stories in it, and it had a dark blue cover, and it was about this thick, and I used to read that book all the way through and then immediately start at the first page and start again. And I'm trying to find it, so if anyone knows of any places I can look that I haven't already tried, give me a shout. But yeah, definitely The Borrowers by Mary Norton made me a reader. Question 2, break time. Which book have you most recently had to take a break from, or DNF? I'm really sad about this. This is a DNF. I don't tend to take breaks from books. I'm either reading it or I've put it down and I'm not going back to it. This was a book that I actually thought might be a 5-star prediction for me, but I got 100 pages in and I was just bored. And that book was Rabbits by Terry Miles. This was kindly sent to me by Book Break in exchange for an honest review, but I just couldn't get into it. I was really intrigued by it because on the blurb it says, what happens in the game stays in the game. Rabbits is a secret, dangerous and sometimes fatal underground game. The rewards for winning are unclear, but there are rumours of money, CIA recruitment or even immortality, or it might unlock the universe's greatest secrets. But everyone knows that the deeper you get, the more deadly the game becomes, and the body count is rising. Since the game started, 10 iterations have taken place and the 11th round is about to begin. And I was like, oh, that sounds really tense. But the first 100 pages was mostly just this guy talking about video games. And I was like, I don't care. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's read the whole thing and I was like, should I keep going? And she was like, not really, it doesn't really get better. So unfortunately I have DNF'd this one, although it does have a very cool cover. But I've got a few people in my life who might want to read it and get, you know, more out of it, and then I will donate it and hopefully it'll find a better home. So yes, there's that one. Lunchtime, tell us about your favourite book that features food. I love a book that's got food in it. If a book's got food in it, it's probably going to be at least a 4-star for me. One of my favourites is Hungry Hearts, 13 Tales of Food and Love, edited by Elsie Chapman and Caroline Tung Richmond. This was gifted to me by Charlotte at Books and Bargains, I think last year, although I can't see a gift note. I've probably lost it because I'm oh, there it is. Yes, it was Charlotte. She sent it to me for Christmas and I just adored this. This is, as it says on the front, 13 short stories. It's based on Hungry Hearts Row, which is this street in an imaginary town, and we have different stories all based around the different restaurants and cafes and stuff there, and most of it's really cozy. There is one story that really goes to a place that I wasn't expecting, and overall I just adored it. And all the description of food, man, like I was so hungry by the time I got to the end of this book. Oh, hi Jack, he's just gonna come. Yeah, that was his tail. If you knock over my stack of books, we're gonna fall out. You coming for a cuddle, Jack? He's like, no, absolutely not. You're doing that thing where you've got your camera. He's really funny. As soon as I've got my laptop and my phone out, he's not interested. You can probably now hear him cleaning himself. That's ideal. Right, next question. Final bell, which book have you most recently finished reading? I am pre-filming this. I'm filming this at the end of August, so by the time you see this in, I think, mid-ish September, I will have finished a few other books, hopefully. And if you want to see what I'm reading, like be up to date with what I'm reading, my Instagram is always linked in the description, and I write a review for every single book that I finish. Jack, sorry if you can hear him cleaning himself. Can we not? I'm trying to film. Yeah. Anyway, the book that I've most recently finished reading at the time of filming this is The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah Collins. I was sent this. Who gifted me this one? This was sent from Laura and Her Bookish Thoughts quite a while ago. This is historical fiction. We are in London 1826 and we've got Franny Langton, who is on trial for the murder of her master and mistress. She can't remember what happened and she's running out of time basically to tell her story, and it goes from there. It's all from her perspective. I absolutely adored it. I thought there was a little bit of problem with pacing in the middle, and there were a couple of storylines that were started and weren't quite finished. But overall, I've really enjoyed this. It was very strong in terms of place and time. We start in Jamaica, and then Franny is brought over to London, and it looks at slavery and the supposed end of slavery. It looks at drug use. It's sapphic. It's quite gory in places. It sort of reminded me of Frankenstein. It very much reminded me of Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood, and it's actually blurbed by Margaret Atwood on the front, who called it deep diving and elegant. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. That's the last book I finished. Next question, final bell. Oh no, I've just done that one. Homework. What was the last non-fiction book that you read and enjoyed? That was Sex, Robots and Vegan Meat by Jenny Kleeman. I was also sent this by Book Break. I really enjoyed this. This wasn't a book that I chose. This came from Pam Macmillan when they did their like yearly kind of, what's the word I want to use? I can't remember what they called it. They did this online session where they talked about all the books that were coming out this year, and they sent a press pack, and this was in the press pack. So it wasn't one that I requested, but I really enjoyed it. This looks at the future of sex, death, birth and food, and all of the technological advances that are currently being made, and where they might go in the future. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I was worried before I picked it up that it might be a bit dry, but actually she's got such a kind of funny, slightly sarcastic tone to it that it was very, very readable. I read it in less than 2 days. I would say it's very white and cis and Western centered. There is one trans person that she talks to in this, but only one. And it doesn't really look at it. It's very kind of cis centered in the way that it looks at gender. I also thought that the death section, which is the last one, was a bit lacking compared to the others. But overall I did enjoy it, and I learned quite a lot. Mostly that Margaret Atwood is genuinely a genius, because loads of the stuff that she talks about, that is talked about in here, was written about by Margaret Atwood in the 80s. So there we go. Okay, Staff Room. Tell us a book that you go to when you need to take a breath. Because trust me, if anyone who works in education will know, like the staff room is very necessary for all of us to go into and go, okay. At various points in the day. For me, I've picked a genre instead of a specific book, and that's historical fiction. And one of my favourite historical fiction series of all time is the Matthew Shardyke series by C.J. Sampson. It starts with Dissolution. We are in Tudor London. We're following Matthew Shardyke. He is a lawyer, and he sort of gets dragged into various different cases. He becomes a detective. Detectives weren't a thing at the time, and he begins solving crimes. I love this series. They're so interesting. I'm definitely overdue for a reread, although I will warn you, this is the smallest of them. You can see a few more there, and they get big. But I absolutely adore C.J. Sampson's writing, and definitely for me, when I need to kind of just switch my brain off and relax, historical fiction is definitely where I go. Okay, we're now going to get into the subjects. So I'm just scrolling down on the screen so I can see the prompts. And let's pull the book stack towards me. Right, English. Tell us about one book you studied at school and recommend one book that you would like to add to the curriculum. So a book that I studied at school and still love is Goodnight Mr. Tom by Michelle Magorian. This is about a little boy who, what's his name? He gets sent, he gets evacuated during the war. William, that's his name. He gets evacuated during World War II, and he goes to stay with Mr. Tom, who's this grumpy old man who lives on his own with his dog, and it's about their relationship. And It's a book I've reread a couple of times as an adult and it always rips my heart out and makes me cry. It is brutal, especially for a kid's book. It explores some really big themes, but it's one that I loved and it's definitely one that I did at school. And then there are so many books that I want to add to the curriculum. I could do a whole video on books that I think should be on the curriculum. There's also a cat hair floating in the air. Welcome to the chaos, it is my channel. There are so many books I would add to the curriculum, but one that I picked out specifically for this video is Don't Touch My Hair by Emma DeBerry. This is one of the best books I read last year. I've also read her follow-up, which is down here, which is What White People Can Do Next. I just think these are really, really important books that look at racism, that look at microaggression, and yeah, I just think they're really important books that should definitely be included on the curriculum. Emma DeBerry is also a fantastic writer. It's very accessible writing. Both of these are short, won't take you long to read. But yes, if you want to be anti-racist, Emma DeBerry is definitely an author that you should be reading. Right, maths. How do you rate your books? I'm doing this fairly quickly because this is obviously the same answer as last year. So I use the 1 to 5 star scale. 5 stars is I absolutely loved it. Couldn't find any fault in it, completely obsessed, gives me that like extra something feeling, which I realise is not very scientific, but sometimes you just know when it's a 5 star. 4 star, I really enjoyed it, but it did have 1 or 2 things that I didn't love or that I thought could have been done better. 3 star, I enjoyed it, but it didn't set my world alight. 2 star very rarely happens, but it's a book that I finished, but that I wouldn't necessarily recommend or I found boring. 1 star I don't think I ever give, because if a book's a 1 star I will have DNF'd it. I can't actually think of any books I've given a 1 star rating this year. Usually if it's lower than a 3 I've probably DNF'd it. I don't do half stars. If I'm not sure, if I'm between say a 4 and a 5, I will go down rather than up, and that's pretty much it. I don't put loads of thought into my star ratings. I go very much on instinct when I finish a book. I think star ratings are really subjective. Other people's star ratings don't either put me off or make me want to read a book. It's more about the comments that they make when they're talking about the book or reviewing the book. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Right, science. Which book couple do you think has the best chemistry? Well, of the books I've read this year, Nick and Charlie from the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. I have read all 4 volumes of these this year and I just love them. I love their relationship. I love how lovely they are with each other. I love the way it's developing. I'm very excited for the next series, the next volume, although I know it's the last one, which makes me very sad. But yeah, I think they just have lovely chemistry. And there are also several side characters, and I won't get into who because I feel like they're spoilers, that also have great chemistry in the rest of the book. That's the cat leaving the room. That's really helpful, thanks Jack. But yeah, I think these two have such lovely chemistry, as do some of the side characters in the other books. Right, geography. Describe a book that had a strong sense of place or great world building. I have gone with A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This I think is the start of either a series or a duology, and at the time of filming it the second book is due out in October and I'm very excited for that one. I read this book earlier this year, I think, or at the end of last year, and it just had a really strong sense of place. I don't read a lot of fantasy. This is West African inspired fantasy and I don't read a lot of it, but I really enjoyed this one. Who sent me this book? It's got a gift note in it. Oh yeah, this was from Thomas, who was my secret. Oh, I organised a Secret Santa on Twitter and Instagram, and it was just it was a gift from him to say thank you, which was very much appreciated. But yeah, I don't read a lot of fantasy, and when I have to admit, when I opened it and saw a map, I was a bit like, I could be out of my depth here. But this had such fantastic world building. I was really secure in the world. I felt like I knew what was going on. It was really detailed. Yeah, I just loved it. We also love the fact that there is a content warning from the author at the start that says, please note this book depicts issues of mild self-harm, ideation, fantasy violence, emotional and physical abuse, anxiety and panic attacks, parental death and animal death. I've done my best to approach these topics with sensitivity, but if you feel this kind of content may be triggering, please be aware. We love to see that. So yeah, this is definitely a book. As soon as I saw this prompt, because weirdly enough, but even though I wrote the prompts, I'd forgotten all about them. This book just immediately, I was like, yes, this one. And also, can we just enjoy this cover? And I am also obsessed with this spine. It looks very pretty on my shelf. And yes, I'm very excited for the next book. History. Which 3 historical fiction novels have you most enjoyed? And if you don't read historical fiction, which areas of history would you like to learn more about? So I have done a whole video on historical fiction for beginners, which I'll link in the description, so I'm not going to recommend any more historical fiction here because I've pretty much talked about all the historical fiction that's on my shelf. But an area of history I would love to learn more about is the time of William Shakespeare. This was a book that I read last year with Harriet from Harriet Rosie Reads. We did a really random buddy read. This is Contested Will by James Shapiro, which is one of the best titles of all time, I think, because it's hilarious, because it's all about who wrote Shakespeare. And if you've been here before, you will know that I am not convinced that the man that we are told is William Shakespeare wrote all the plays and the sonnets, and this is one of those things that I would love to read more about. I enjoyed this book. James Shapiro is somebody who does believe that William Shakespeare wrote all the plays and the sonnets, so know that going in, but he's very open about that from the very beginning. But he explores some of the other people who could have written the plays or contributed to the plays. So yeah, it's definitely something I want to read more about, but I need to find, like, quite a few of the books that I found on that topic are quite dry looking. And I've read like the first chapter and I've been like, I don't think so. So if you know of any books, I realize it's a very niche thing to be interested in, but if you know of any other books on this topic, please let me know, because I would love to read more. I mean, just for my kind of private like Shakespeare nerdiness, but also I feel like it'd be a really interesting thing to talk about with the kids when I'm teaching Shakespeare at school. Right, religious studies, which is the one book you always come back to. I am going to talk about this book very briefly because I talk about this book all the time, and that's The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is my favourite book of all time. I've read it dozens of times. Every time I read it, I find something new. It's always the book I come back to. It's the book I've got the most copies of. I collect different editions. It was always going to be this one. Moving on. PE, show us the biggest book on your TBR. This is the biggest book, as in it's thick and it's also really tall and it's heavy. And it's a paperback, but it's really heavy. And that is Sunset Swing by Ray Celestin. And this comes out on the 11th of November. This was an ARC that I was sent by Book Break. And I was not expecting the size. Like, look at the size. I mean, it is this gloriously floppy paperback, but this thing, like, I could kill someone with this if I really wanted to. Like, let's find a normal sized paperback just to compare it to. Like, yeah, it's big. So this is historical fantasy fiction, sort of. So we're in Los Angeles in 1967. A devil is loose in the city of angels. Jack's back. And it says LA is moving to an increasingly frenzied, fevered beat with crime rates rising and a violent serial killer stalking the streets. A terrifying chain of events is set in motion across the city. And I haven't even read the rest of the blurb. I was like, I saw the blurb and I was like, that bit of the blurb, I was like, yes, please, I would love to read that. What I also really like is that you can scan the QR code here and there's a whole music playlist. So I'm definitely going to do that whilst I'm reading this, which I'll be doing in October because it comes out in November. But yeah, this is going to be a workout holding this book because it's massive. But a very cool proof copy. I'm assuming that the final copy will look similar because there's no picture on the back to say that it'll be different. But yes, this is the biggest book on my TBR. It's bigger than my head. Let's put it that way. Okay, music. Which reading format do you think has the best rhythm for reading? So I think I said the same answer for this last year. I personally prefer to read hardback books, but I do also read paperbacks and audiobooks. And I think the best rhythm, I love having a book read to me. So I think probably audiobook for rhythm would be the best format. I always have an audiobook on the go. Weirdly, I never include them on TBRs because I just pick my audiobook at random to listen to in my car as I drive to and from school. But yeah, I think audiobooks have the best rhythm for reading. Drama. Which book do you think has the best ending? Another book I've talked about incessantly on this channel is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I love this book. I've read it twice or 3 times. I always give it 5 stars. I love the ending. It's a massive mystery book. I feel like everything's really satisfying by the end. So yeah, this one. I also think if you loved Evelyn Hugo, you should read this one. This one was written first and it's got a very similar feel to it. So if you love that book, I would definitely recommend this one. And yeah, I just love it. And I love the ending. And I also love this edition. So there we go. Right. Two more questions. Art, show us 3 books that you think have the best covers. I have kind of copped out on this one, but I'm not even sorry. The 3 books I think that have beautiful covers are the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. The 4th book is not coming out until next October, which hurts me, and we're still waiting for a cover review at the time of filming this, but we all think it's going to be purple just from like what we've seen online. I think it's going to be a purple one, but I love the book covers for the Nevermore series. So obviously it starts with Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. They're always beautiful. I do have these 2 in hardback as well up there, which are also beautiful, but in terms of the set, I can't find a hardback of Nevermore in this cover that isn't really expensive or completely gross when it gets here, so the hunt continues for that one. So that's Nevermore. Really beautiful. I just love the illustrations, I love the colour, I love all the gold. Then we have Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow, and you've got like all of this exploded like glass all around the characters. Love it. And then Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow, with these like you've got dragons and all kinds of things happening here, and again it's so pretty. So yeah, I think they are just the most beautiful covers. They also look gorgeous all together, and yeah, they're so pretty. They're so pretty. Okay, and then final question, modern foreign languages, recommend a translated book that you enjoyed. I am currently reading a translated book, and that is Quality Land by Mark Yue Kling. This is translated from German by, who did the translation? It did say, yes, translated into English by Jamie Lee Searle, and this was gifted to me by Marianne a couple of books. There was a whole saga getting this book to me because I accidentally put the German edition on my wish list, which I can't read. We sorted it out and I have got this in my hands. At the time of reading this, I'm over halfway and I'm really enjoying this. This is set in Quality Land, where basically the equivalent of Amazon and Google have become the government, and everything is automated, and the shop sends you stuff before you even know that you need it. And a man gets sent something one day that he definitely doesn't want, and he tries to return it, and it kind of goes from there. And it's sort of part story and part travel guide into Quality Land, and I'm really enjoying it. So yes, this is a translated book that I'm currently thoroughly enjoying. I think by the time you watch this, the second half of my August reading month will be up, so you'll know which star rating I gave it. I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 5. I feel like it depends on the ending what star rating I end up at, but I'm really enjoying it. So those are all the questions in the school days book tag. I will always enjoy. I've enjoyed doing this again. I might do it every year just to kind of update it. If you feel like giving it a go, I'll put all the questions, the original video, all that good stuff in the description below. I'm going to tag some people. Who should I tag? I didn't prepare this in advance. That's really good. Let's have a look on, because I've got my YouTube open. Let's have a look and see who's posted videos recently in my subscription feed. Okay, so I'm just going to tag the first 3 people I see in my sub feed. So I'm going to tag Brianna from 4 Paws in a Book. I'm going to tag Kaz from Cats and Camera, and I'm going to tag Chloe from Chloe Reads Books. They might have already done it, I can't remember, but I'm going to tag them. If you feel like doing it, please feel free to do so. If you made it to this point in the video, leave me the apple emoji, as it's all about back to school and teaching. And please subscribe if you'd like more of this chaos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye.